when Venus is in Scorpio, it brings this area of, or this quality of Venus, which is about desire, flexibility. Venus is about accommodation. It's about wanting everybody to win, pleasing everyone, and wanting everyone's needs and desires to be listened to and accommodated. It brings that into the realm of Scorpio, which is very emotional. It's about fixed emotions, where we can get stuck on something emotionally and maybe get, somewhat obsessive about it. As we try to get to the emotional depth, we can get stuck and even, somewhat obsessive about something. And it's also, ruled by Mars, so Scorpio has a emotionally turbulent nature. And all of this creates, quite a bit of drama. The sign itself has a lot of emotional extremes, and Venus does very well in situations where we're either very slow, like in an Earth sense, in an Earth sign. Venus rules, Taurus, which is the most solid, the slowest, the most stable, where we can actually, like for instance, take food and enjoy every bite slowly, eating it slowly, really enjoying and savoring it. What's called santosha. Venus is big on santosha, which means contentment. Contentment. And Venus is also related very much to air, which has to do with flexibility, lightness. Not extreme. So again, you can look at the masculine and feminine qualities this way. Planets have a masculine and feminine quality. Jupiter, for instance, his masculine quality is fiery, and his feminine quality is watery. That's Jupiter. Fiery, which is inspirational, and this, not that, and fire, about action. And water, which is about feeling and emotion. That's Jupiter's nature. That's Jupiter's masculine and feminine nature. Venus, as I said, feminine nature is earthy, which is slow, stable, steady, solid, and airy, which is light, easy, breezy, sharing, right? That masculine nature of air is much different than the masculine nature of fire. The feminine nature of earth is much different than the feminine nature of water. Water is to flow and ebb and flow. That's not so good for Venus. Venus is about stable, slow, and not extremes, emotional extremes. So when Venus is in Scorpio, there's a lot of emotional extremes that need to be watched. So particularly when you get into things like romance and other people, and Venus is the planet of sex, sexuality. And again, this is why we should be slow and we should be light around those things. When we have a lot of passion and desire, and we get obsessed and fixed and stuck, and Venus and sexuality and romance can be, again, like I said, quite obsessive and full of extreme in Scorpio. Scorpio is that emotional depth that's possible once we transform our emotional fear. There's a lot of emotional depth in Scorpio. It's fixed water, but again, it can also be, instead of going into that water with a lot of depth, which is the fixed water, the fixed nature is where we concentrate the energy, it can instead get stuck and obsessive, especially when we fixate on something external. And Venus is very external. Venus is why the senses feel good. And people, we want people to be happy, and we want to experience beauty and joy with people, and we want to experience physical pleasure through our own body, and we want to share that pleasure with others. And ultimately, we want to find it in the joy of creation itself. So one of the things is, when you do get Venus in Scorpio, it can make for that deep kind of romance with beauty itself. Venus is exalted in a water sign, but it's a sattvic water sign. Venus is exalted in Pisces, which is sattvic water sign. Pisces is also very fluid. Again, you have to look at these qualities. Venus is exalted in Pisces, but it's very fluid. It's water that's flowing, just like the nature of Venus, which is air that's moving. When the water is moving, that's one thing, and when the water is fixed, then those desires can get fixed and stuck and obsessed. And the turbulence can set in. So ponder that. I've seen, and especially understand that Scorpio is a sign that likes drama. And I don't mean that in a negative. Sometimes people think that if I say drama, because drama is used as a negative adjective, I don't. Drama just means emotional velocity. One of the things with Scorpio, and again, it's not an insult, it's just the truth, that Scorpio needs to work through the illusion that intensity, that emotional intensity and drama equals growth. That if there's not drama, then there's no growth. This is the illusion of Scorpio, one of the biggest things that Scorpio has to evolve as they grow up. Instead of looking for things that are just going to create a lot of emotional intensity, because it's ruled by Mars and it's watery and emotional, instead of gravitating to things that create a lot of intensity and drama, so that they can feel the turbulence of the emotions and then eventually prove to themselves that they have the courage to face it, and then eventually, after all of this drama calms down, then they reach some growth. But again, they don't reach the growth until the drama calms down. So mistaking that intensity and drama for growth is an issue with Scorpio. So when you get Venus there, this intensity and drama is like fueling our desires, and our desire for pleasure and our desire for happiness. Again, now once it gets transformed, it can take the person to a very deep level of the appreciation of beauty, and especially if it's a high manifestation of beauty, like in the arts, and it does make for a lot of creativity, arts, but it's also a lot of pain. It's a lot of that sort of painful associations where people can really, have that romance with the darkness kind of thing. With Venus especially, because it's very much a romantic planet. The moon in Scorpio, Venus in Scorpio, it's these energies that want to enjoy life and feel good. They both have this kind of romance with the darkness. With Venus, you'll often see, it can be with Mercury as well, with Venus you can see that it may actually turn them into an artist, or someone who is a writer or a musician or something like that, where they want to express that, soul's depth that comes through Scorpio. Scorpio feels things very deeply, but they can also get stuck in it, like a well that goes deep, but the well is still well. If you want to get out of it, at some point you have to climb out of the well. Otherwise, you're just in a very narrow. The thing about Scorpios is they can live in a very sort of narrow existence. And if they don't go deep with it, they can just be in a very kind of stuck, narrow, and even shallow phase. So the shallow end of the pool with Scorpio has that kind of drama, just being fixated on the drama on the surface of the water. That doesn't go so deep. Once they go deep, they can go all the way down. Then Venus and Scorpio can really become transformed, and it can really transform those desires into something, sort of sublime. But again, one of the things that are mismatched is the guna, because the gunas really show a kind of default association. Venus is very rajasic. Mercury's also rajasic, but because Mercury is also a neutral planet, Mercury can morph into a lot of different things. Venus is really about pleasure. It's really why the senses feel good, why sex feels good, why food tastes good, why people are beautiful. And the beauty, not just physical, but how we feel when we're like when you were first in love, and that oh my God, wow, right? That feeling of beauty, romance. A lot of people associate this with the moon. It's actually, the moon is much deeper. The moon is like the love, like the romance you would have for your child, or of something, something that you've created, like with God or something. It's sattvic. Venus is the romance with another person, like that sweet, juicy thing, and you feel like, ooh, I can't wait to see that person, and that just feeling that you get with another adult, another, equal. And that soulmate romance illusion that we're kind of, hoping that we're going to find. So you get it in Scorpio, and it can turn that kind of that desire into something that's very intense, and we look for it in something that's dangerous and turbulent and hard to get out of the drama of that, and having a romance with that intensity. The planets that do well in Scorpio are Mars, Jupiter, Sun, Ketu. They're planets that really are interested in taking on challenges and getting to the bottom of things and the depth and the inspiration and the power. Those planets do very well in Scorpio, because Scorpio has a lot of depth. Venus and the Moon, particularly, they're very much, they get kind of disoriented in all that intensity. Venus, Mercury, the Moon. Saturn is also out of his element. He's kind of fearful there, because all that emotion, Saturn kind of turns that into ice when he's there. So these are the things to understand. And when you're looking at Venus in Scorpio, we have to be careful of that illusion, that intensity and drama, and romantic intensity and drama is really worth it, because ultimately we don't actually learn, and Scorpio doesn't actually learn until all the drama stops and slows down. When I say Scorpio, I'm not talking about Scorpios. So if you're a Scorpio, just chill out, okay? Planets in Scorpio. Doesn't matter the ascendant or whatever. So right now I'm talking about Venus in Scorpio. When you see that, because Venus is the karaka of relationships and of interaction, that relationship with desires and romance and whatnot can be quite turbulent, and we can have a kind of attraction to that thing, which doesn't actually serve the deeper Venus equation, which is to take things slow, to be light, and to, and to convey mutual respect. Mutual respect. I get this, you get this. Scorpio is very much not like that. Scorpio is, again, it's about polarizing and obsessions, and that can be very difficult. So, there you go.